Good evening, guys, and welcome to the second of this week's ghost story from around the world. And tonight's ghost story is going to be all about the Sallie house found in Kansas, America. The town of Atchison in the state of Kansas is situated along the Missouri River and was originally home to the Kansas tribe. The town was founded in 1854 when settlers arrived. It is famous for being the birthplace of Amelia Earhart and is proclaimed to be the most haunted town in Kansas. Situated at 508 North 2nd Street sits an old white house known as the Sallie House, which has been called not only the most haunted house in Kansas, but in the entire country. The house originally got its name from a ghostly little girl called Sallie, who was said to haunt the house. It is said that in around 1905, a frantic mother arrived at the house, which was owned by a physician, carrying her 6-year-old daughter Sallie, who had collapsed from severe abdominal pain. The doctor diagnosed appendicitis and knew there was no time to delay surgery. The little girl panicked at the sight of the surgical tools, and the doctor was forced to hold her down to give her heather. Thinking that the anesthetic had taken hold of the little girl, the doctor started cutting her open. This obviously caused the little girl to start screaming and thrashing in pain. But knowing that if he stopped, she would die, the doctor continued cutting her open. Suddenly the screams stopped, and she grew pale and limp, and died on the operating table, with her last memories being that a man was torturing her. The house's history began in 1866 when the land on which it stands on was purchased by Michael Finney so as to build a new home for his wife Kate and her children James, Agnes and Charles. After settling in Atchison in 1856 with his wife Kate and their 7-month-old son James, Michael ran a merchandise store in the town and was very well known and respected. The small family lived in 2 rooms above the store at first, but after giving birth to Agnes in 1861, followed by their second son Charles in 1865, Michael wanted to provide his family with a proper home. The house was built between 1867 and 1871, and it is believed that whilst the house was being built, the Finney family lived in the basement while the rest of the house was completed. However, Michael did not get to enjoy their new home for long, as sadly on September 27th, 1872, he died aged 51, leaving behind him his now pregnant wife Kate to care for their children. On May 25th, 1873, Kate gave birth to a boy named Edwin, who sadly only survived just over a year, and joined his father on September 29th, 1874. It is said that Kate was a woman of the old school. Her home was a kingdom and she ruled it wisely. She loved all 3 of her children, but her favourite was Charles, who in return absolutely idolised her. In 1879, the eldest son James decided to build another house next door to the family home for himself, but then decided to leave Colorado to find his riches. He returned very shortly afterwards, cursing the place, but after realising that Atchison was no better, he deeded his house to his mother, and in 1881 moved to St. Louis to become a salesman. Sadly, James would never get to see his home again, as on February 18th, 1900, he died at Evergreen Hospital in Leavenworth after suffering with a form of neurosyphilis for 8 months. In 1882, Charles, while still a teenager, became a bookkeeper for the town's physician, Dr. Dan Holland, who urged him to consider becoming a doctor himself. Now at this point, Charles was also ice skating in competitions and was very, very good at it. So good that it is said that he had a habit of dressing in drag and competing as a female due to just how graceful he really was. Unfortunately for him, when this was discovered, he was banned from entering any more competitions. With that, Charles began to study medicine and received his MD degree after graduating from Beaumont Medical College in St. Louis in 1894. Upon his return to Atchison, he opened up his own surgery in the town, and his medical career flourished. In 1904, Charles married Louise Sebald, and a year later, they built a house on the other side of his mother's house. And as well as that, Louise gave birth to their son, also named Charles. So now we've got all the surviving Finneys all living in a row next to each other. And everything seemed to be going great for the Finney family, especially when in 1913 Charles was elected mayor of Atchison, and that same year Agnes married William True, a Burlington Train Company engineer. But by 1916 things turned drastically for the family when Charles was forced to step down as mayor after a scandal arose over the selling of alcohol at a local Eagles Lodge. Not only that, but Agnes's husband William suffered a stroke whilst they were on a trip, and Agnes brought him straight back to Atchison immediately, obviously to be looked after by Charles. Unfortunately, 18 months later, on May the 4th, 1918, William died at his mother-in-law's house. And then to make things worse, their mother Kate died from septicemia 2 months later, after being ill for some months with gangrene. Agnes continued to live in the family home, and for a time took in lodgers to help her pay for expenses. However, on November the 28th, 1939, Agnes also died in the house, aged 79 years old. The house remained the property of the Finneys via her brother Charles, although he never lived there, and after his death in 1947, the house was rented out. One of the families that moved in was the Mice family, who moved in December 1948, but only stayed there for a short while. It is not known who lived there after that, but it would appear that the only person who seemed to tolerate the house's peculiar characteristics was Ethel Anderson, a divorcee who moved in 1958 and remained there until 1990. At one point, her daughter Liz Johnson and her children went to live with Ethel, and it was during this point that it is said that a mysterious fire broke out in what would become the nursery. However, during my research, I found a post on a website from a Kennedy Johnson, who states it was himself and his younger brothers who started that fire. One day they were messing around with some matchsticks and they started a fire in a trash bin outside. So the fire never broke out in the house, it was actually outside. And they never ever experienced any paranormal activity. But between 1990 and 1992, Colleen Humbard, a single mom, moved into the house with her children, and she would often find her daughter's toys strewn across the bedroom floor. When she addressed her daughter about picking them up and putting them away after playing with them, her daughter told her that it wasn't her that did it, it was Sallie. Now, Colleen assumed that she was referring to an imaginary friend and would eventually grow out of it. But after moving out of the property, the daughter never mentioned Sallie again. Now, I would like to point out that this information only came to light after what happened to the next family that moved into the Sallie house. On December 31st, 1992, Tony and Deborah Pickman, a young couple who had recently married and was expecting their first child, moved into the quaint little house where nothing seemed out of the ordinary at first. But that was all to change, and that is when the house's notorious reputation began to become more popular. Tony and Deborah began noticing that their dog appeared to bark and growl at nothing, especially around the nursery on the second floor. Lights would dim and brighten on their own, appliances would turn on and off, and pictures on the walls would be found turned upside down. Next, they started feeling cold spots, usually by the stairs, and when they brought their newborn home, their baby would wake up constantly throughout the night, as though someone kept waking him up. Their neighbour across the road from them also noticed that the light in the nursery was kept on throughout the night, and asked Deborah why she left it on with the baby sleeping in there. This turned out to be quite a shock for Deborah, who insisted that she always turned the light off. In July 1993, Deborah's sister came to stay, and one night the family returned from a night out to find all of the teddy bears in the nursery placed on the floor in a perfect circle. Thinking that someone was playing a practical joke on them, they put all the toys back to where they were originally, turned off the light and then went back downstairs. To their horror, when they went back upstairs, not only was the light back on, well, the teddy bear was knocked off the chair that it was on and was lying on its back on the floor. After that, they packed up their stuff, grabbed the baby and went to live with Tony's parents. While they were leaving though, Tony felt a sharp jab in his back, and when they lifted up his shirt, they discovered 3 long scratches on his back. Tony would continue, viciously scratched, as time went on. A medium friend was invited to the house and she made contact with Sallie, who it turns out is just a mischievous spirit.
Sallie continued to make her presence known by starting small fires, leaving finger marks on burnt candles, or by making objects move by themselves. Tony has also reported seeing the full-bodied apparition of Sallie in the kitchen when he went to get himself a drink. He turned around to see a little girl wearing old-fashioned clothes stood in front of him, dropped his glass in shock, and when he looked again, she had disappeared. Tony described the little girl as looking like a very sweet-looking child, and even found the time to draw a picture of her. On another occasion, it is said that Tony's mother had a lamp thrown at her, and Tony would hear scratching coming from behind his bed, which sounded like an animal trying to dig itself out of the wall. One night, Sallie appeared in the bedroom and grabbed Tony by the wrists, leaving behind red finger marks on his arm. Shortly after that, Tony started having some really horrible thoughts where he wanted to hurt Deborah, and he felt like he was a completely different person. He would have thoughts of wanting to slit her throat, and these thoughts really tore him up. After living in the house for almost 2 years, Tony and Deborah could take it no longer, and the last straw that determined their need to move was when Tony felt a strong shove from behind him and he was nearly pushed over the railing at the top of the stairs. But even after moving, Tony reported still getting scratched in their new home, but eventually the attacks did stop. The Fish family moved in almost immediately after the Pickmans left, but during their residency, no paranormal activity was reported. After that, the Liggett family moved in, and they were the last family to occupy the house until 2004. They too never experienced any paranormal activity, and since their departure, the house has remained empty and was even put up for sale in 2016 for the crazy price of $1 million. Over the years, the house has been the subject of several TV shows and has drawn many paranormal teams and psychics in to attempt to unravel who or what resides there. The most commonly reported activity includes objects moving by themselves, strange noises, voices, dark moving shadows, temperature fluctuations, equipment malfunction, hair pulling, and receiving minor injuries such as cuts and burns. However, there are those that believe that the whole thing is an hoax, and I have to admit myself, after doing the research that I have pondered the same myself. Is the haunting of the Sallie house real? Who knows? Despite extensive research, the Sallie story is yet to be proven, because as of yet, nothing has been found to prove that a child named Sallie died in the house. However, there is nothing to say that she didn't, and it was just never recorded. Or what is known is what Deborah and Tony experienced, and it is something that will haunt them for the rest of their lives. And that concludes tonight's ghost story from around the world. Now, before I come to the end of this video, I would like to thank Claire for requesting this story.
So I hope you enjoyed it, Claire. As usual, if you also enjoyed it, please remember to give this video a thumbs up. And if you would like to ask any questions, or if there's something about the Sallie house that you would like to ask me about, because as I said, I have done quite a bit of research into the story, please leave your comments down below and I will be more than happy to answer you. And that is it for tonight, guys, and as usual, sleep tight, don't let those bed bugs bite. Bye for now.